Hey, it's Dave Dolphin at practicalworshipblog.com, sharing ideas, tips, and practical advice for the everyday worship leader. Today, I want to talk about our broadcast mix, the audio mix that we use as a part of our live stream when we broadcast live our services on the internet, either for people to watch that morning while it's going on live or later on in the week. And specifically, how you can make your broadcast audio have life and presence and not be flat and dry and bland and things like that. So our broadcast mix is actually a board mix from our front of house. We don't have a separate desk and a separate room or anything like that. Here at front of house, we actually also create our broadcast mix, but there's some things that we do to it that give it life and presence and not be bland and dry. Okay, so I'm going to give you a taste of what our broadcast mix sounds like. I've got some multi-tracks over here from a previous Sunday and the exact mix that we use for this song on this Sunday. And so it sounds a little bit like this.
You have made me new, now life begins with you. Released from my chains, I'm a prisoner no more. My shame was a ransom he faithfully bore. He canceled my debt and he called me his friend. When death was arrested and my life began.
All right, so I'm going to make some changes. I'm going to turn some things off and do a couple of things that I'll explain what I'm doing here in a second. But I want you to compare what you just listened to this.
You have made me new, now life begins with you. Released from my chains, I'm a prisoner no more. My shame was a ransom he faithfully bore. He canceled my debt and he called me his friend. When death was arrested and my life began.
Okay, do you hear how dry and flat that second version is compared to the first version? It has no space. It doesn't live in a 3D space. And if there's a common mistake that I hear on live streams that churches do is that they use some kind of a board mix or whatever that doesn't live in any kind of space. When you are in the room, the auditorium, the room, or whatever has a natural feeling, presence to it, a reverb. And when you have a dry mix, all that is gone. So you have to add that back in, take your music and put it back into kind of a 3D space. Now, the first thing that we do is we utilize panning and we use stereo. We use that to our advantage. Now, the PA in this room is actually mono. So anything that we do in stereo in the room has no benefit. But for our broadcast mix, it does help. So for example, right here is the panning knob, and you can kind of see how as I go through the different channels, we are utilizing the stereo field. So some things are left and some things are right. Things like this right here is our live keys, and that is in stereo. And even our Ableton tracks right here, we run those in stereo as well. Again, taking advantage of the stereo field to begin the process of at least putting it in a two-dimensional space and having a sense of a left and a right. Now, the second thing that we do is that we actually mix with a lot of effects, with reverbs and delay. And that's part of our sound. We kind of take a page from Andrew Stone's book at Church on the Move, and that we like to use a lot of effects and reverbs and delays and things like that, primarily for the sound in the house, but the broadcast mix definitely benefits from that. So let's just talk about the drums for just a second here. turn it off. All right, so let's talk about what's going on. We have a dedicated reverb just for our drums. We have a lot of snare drum and a little bit of the toms as well. This song has actually got some cymbals in there as well. Normally that's down like that, but adding just some reverb mainly to the snare and a little bit to the toms can really put the entire drum kit into a three-dimensional space. So the next thing that we do a lot of effects on is going to be the vocals, and our strategy is that we actually have two verbs, one that's super long and another one that is a lot shorter. The main vocal gets the long and the rest of the background vocals get the short. So here is the lead vocal through that reverb.
Released from my chains, I'm a prisoner no more. My shame was a ransom he faithfully bore.
And so what's going on there is lots of that goes to my lead vocal right here, and then the rest of the singers get this shorter verb. Now, in order to make all the singers kind of sound like one, notice that I'm getting a little bit in the short verb and everyone else is getting a little bit in the long verb. But that way the long verb is just for the lead, and it doesn't muddy up the mix with all these reverb trails of all these people singing. So you get the effect of the space, but not, muddying up the mix. So here's what the background vocals sound like.
Oh, your grace so free washes over me. You have made me new, now life begins with you.
So that puts it in some kind of a 3D space, but it's not too much. Just enough to kind of put it together. And then the final thing we do add is we add delay as well. So all the vocals together with the delay, the reverb, everything sounds like this.
Oh, your grace so free washes over me. You have made me new, now life begins with you. It's your endless love.
Now the last thing that we do is we actually bring back in some of the natural reverb of the room with room mics. We've got a pair of room mics, one on each of our camera platforms in the back of the room, and they are just giving you a little bit more of a sense of being in the room. They're picking up volume off the stage, they're picking up reactions from people singing and clapping and things like that, and just adding a little bit of the energy of the room back into the mix. So if I mute everything, but I turn those on, I should get just the room mics. So that's what those sound like. So let's turn this off. I'm going to keep all the reverb and the delays off. So we'll go back to our dry mix with our room mics off.
So free washes over me. You have made me new, now life begins with you. It's your end.
It's real subtle, but that combined with everything else really adds to a mix, a broadcast mix that feels like you're in the room instead of just this dry, flat, non-dimensional mix. So So that's kind of a look into our broadcast mix and how we add a little bit of life and presence into it. And for those that are watching at home, making them feel and have a sense that they are in the room with us during the service. Hey, here at Practical Worship, we love sharing ideas and tips and practical advice for the everyday worship leader with videos just like this one. So if this was helpful, hey, hit that like button below. That tells YouTube that somebody liked it and someone else might like it, and they begin to promote it a little bit more when you do that. Also, consider subscribing to the channel. We do videos just like this where we talk about gear and leadership principles and how to lead in worship teams and tech teams and things like that. So if you hit subscribe, you'll know when new videos come online here at YouTube every single week. And if this was beneficial to you, you might know someone that might benefit from this information as well. Consider sharing it on social media, on Facebook and Twitter and places like that. And for more great practical advice, check out practicalworshipblog.com.